Hi everyone, Runthony Fastano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it is time for the next installment of List Week. Listing things out. In this video we have the top 10 worst singles of 2017. Let's go! At number 10, we're gonna kick it off with one of the worst pop singles I've heard this year and one of the most hideous departures from a group's particular sound. That has to be Weezer with Feels Like Summer. The overwrought, glitzy, glossy pop production on this track is absolutely gross. Some of Rivers Cuomo's most uninspired lyrics as well. I just really dislike the sound and aesthetic of this track in a very strong way. I'm very repulsed by it. From the shiny, splashy piano chords to the soaring vocals, it's about every millennial pop cliche that you can think of. I just think it's awful. I have no use for it. I just have no use for it. This next track is not one of the more well-known on the list, however, it did stand out to me personally as being one of the most tacky and tasteless that I've heard this year. The new MNDR and Scissor Sisters collaboration, Swerlk. Yes, the song is as disgusting as the title sounds. It's literally like a pop dance, sort of alternative dance tune, talking about a variety of different dances and moves that one can do, sort of fusing them all together into one gross gyrating movement, which they dub Swirlk, which literally sounds like the noise I make when I'm throwing up, just Swirlk. The groove and beat on this thing is kind of nice, but generally I find the sounds on this track to be way too digital, way too lifeless. The vocals are really, really annoying. Like it's basically a really obnoxious novelty song. Like I don't know, like that weird frog guy. What happened to that weird frog guy? The frog guy. At number 8, we have Machine Gun Kelly with At My Best featuring Haley Steinfeld. This to me is essentially everything wrong with white pop rap. Everything that's dislikable about it, everything that's tacky about it, everything that's melodramatic about it and awful to the ears is just exemplified in this track. If there's one trend that I wish would just disappear and die out, it is just overly dramatic pop rap songs with huge, glamorous, explosive choruses, an awful vocal feature who sounds pretty much just like every other vocal feature who appears on these kinds of tracks. And let's be honest here, it's all just a ripoff of Eminem's style anyway, but a very mediocre version of that. And we've heard a pretty awful Eminem this year. Let's say that. But surprisingly, the Eminem singles from this year were not awful enough to make it onto this list. They just squeezed out of the list, but we have provided this terrible Eminem ripoff. Moving on from there, one of the most annoying singles of the year has to be Iggy Azalea's Mo Bounce. Yeah, it's just as redundant and mindless and repetitive as, like, you know, that song that Big Sean has about ass. Banger beat is really obnoxious. Iggy Azalea sounds goofy on the track. I just don't see her career coming back at this point. I just don't think it's coming back at this point. Just not with material like this. Not with material like this. At number 6, it is Fall Out Boy with Young and Menace. The band is back with a record that is actually even a worse departure than Weezer on Feels Like Summer. Like, they're pretty much embodying every terrible EDM cliche, and EDM is no longer even the zeitgeist at the moment. So why they would think to rip it off now, I don't know. But I don't know what I hate more on this track. Is it the super overblown beat? Is it the weird chipmunked, reverbed, echoes, splash sound of like a cat being strangled to death? This track sounds like Skrillex and M83 going on a really bad blind date. It's pretty much what it sounds like. Not really sure what else there is to say about it. It's just a really garish, dislikable single. At number 5, this is a track I was kind of on the fence with, but now that I have heard it in the context of the rest of the album that it sits on, and I know that the album is god-awful, Little Yachty's Bring It Back. Yeah, I mean, this song is so awful, it's almost so awful that it's kind of enjoyable as like a bit of a goof, as a bit of a gag. But essentially, this is like Little Yachty singing out of tune and very awkwardly over like this shimmering 80s style pop rock instrumental. In a way, I do kind of enjoy the track as a joke, especially with the silly music video it's attached to. However, I do have to at the end of the day acknowledge that an awful track is an awful track, and that is what this is. Bring it back! This thing is so off, it's so incredibly awkward, and the song stinks. Like, Jesus Christ, the lyrics, what you can derive as a vocal melody out of this thing. I mean, I don't know who finally approves this stuff. Like, nobody said, hey, go back and clean it up a little bit so that it's, you know, like, synced up. It makes sense, but whatever, I guess it's all in good fun anyway. At number 4, some of you guys actually thought the only Smith that was going to be worth hearing this year was a Jaden Smith, and you were sorely mistaken, because his father, Will Smith, dropped a new track this year titled Get Lit. Will Smith is getting lit! This is one of the worst things I've heard this year, like... how did this happen? I don't think Will Smith has an album coming out or anything, so he just decided to drop a track out of the blue, and it's just awful. Not only are we talking about huge, gigantic Electric Daisy Festival size percussion on this thing, but also there's like a little bit of a reggae and dance hall vibe coming through on the keyboards on this thing. Of course, there's auto-tune on the vocals. It's like every awful mainstream cliche going on in music right now executed in the worst way possible. The lyrics are trash, and Will Smith sounds just as corny as ever. Like, he sounds just... At number 3, this track comes from a fellow YouTuber, which was actually a hotbed of awful music this year, not just the music industry, because a prevailing trend on the platform in 2017 was YouTubers going rap and putting out like diss songs and stuff. So you have a bunch of people who can't really rap all that well, paying other producers, sometimes getting ghostwriters to like basically come up with a tolerable song for them so that they could put it on their YouTube channel and they look cool. And one of the greatest cultural offenders on this front has to be one Ricegum, and while he did drop quite a few awful tracks this year, I have to specifically point out his response track to Jake Paul's It's Everyday Bro, It's Everynight Sis. I do not get Ricegum's bag, honestly. Like, he's so popular, I don't really understand why, because he makes so much money. It seems like there are a lot of people out there who like him, but he just oozes this lack of self-confidence, and you can't really step on the mic and sound like you have no self-esteem. At least not in a way where you're like, I hope no one realizes I'm a bitch. Everything about the song sounds like a novelty song, but Ricegum probably doesn't think it's a novelty song. From his flow and his delivery to the really generic beat, it's like a joke song with no jokes. Actually it does have a joke. Ricegum is the joke in the song. He's the joke. At number 2, inching it out in front of Everynight Sis, of course, it's Everyday Bro. Jake Paul and Team 10, Everyday Bro. It does have to take up this spot because not only is it a garbage song, but it's also kind of responsible for taking a lot of this YouTube rap outside of the YouTube bubble and putting it into the mainstream. I have a sneaking suspicion that the popularity of this song and the effect that it's going to have culturally will lead to peak trap, the death of trap, especially considering that Gucci Mane just did a feature with this dude on the It's Everyday Bro remix. Generic trap beat, terrible rapping, garbage bars, mediocre everything, mediocre people. A man from England who says England is his city. You hit my phone last night, and it was 3:42, and I got the text up. There were a few good memes to come out of this music video and song, and Jake Paul, for the most part, seems aware and accepting of the fact that he's become the internet's punching bag. However, there are moments when he seems like way too much of an idiot and a little too offensive for me to just like grapple with. I think a low point for me culturally on YouTube was when he went down to Houston after the hurricane to basically turn the tragedy into a photo op for himself. So yeah, this song is poo-poo, it's doo-doo, it's caca, flush it down the toilet. And here we go, number 1, the worst song of the year, in my opinion, has to be the new Hopsin single, Happy Ending. This is the most racist shit I've heard all year, honestly. Hopsin on this track essentially goes to an Asian massage parlor and raps from the standpoint of a few women who work there in a very high-pitched, nasal, broken English dialect. He's essentially rapping in yellowface on this track. And if that wasn't distasteful enough on the track, he's basically rapping about getting sucky and fucky. And then after that, he goes into grave detail as to what the woman is doing for him and when he finishes. And you know what, at the end of the day, it's not even that the song is graphic, it's not even that there's an element of prostitution in the song, it's just the tacky, corny lyricism, the fact that Hopsin feels so emboldened to brag so openly about a time he paid for sex. I paid for sex. Aren't I cool? I'm really cool. If you want to get sexual in a song, it's totally fine, but the joke in this track is just really not there, and the racial overtones are fucking disgusting. He's just really trying to capitalize super hardcore on these ugly Asian stereotypes, and you know, that's really enough to make it the worst song of the friggin' year. And I think we are going to leave it at that, everybody. Transition, relevant links and reviews to some of the artists who made these songs are down there in the description box. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have a thought on this video. Over next to my head is another List Week video you can check out. I will see you guys in the next one. Anthony Fantano, Worst Songs of 2017, forever.